Rolling.
My name is Mark McCandlish, and for the better part of the last 30 years I've been a conceptual artist, illustrator, and designer, working predominantly for the aerospace and defense industries. About 1988, I came into some information that indicated that the United States government was in possession of and operating a kind of anti-gravity technology through a system, an aircraft that was referred to as the Fluxliner or as the alien reproduction vehicle.
Deanne Davis with United Press International. Could you please address the vehicle that there was a drawing displayed of? Why would this vehicle be on display at an air show? What is the power source that you are asserting is going to be so very useful? And how can you determine that this vehicle is not something that is being developed, by a government agency?
In fact, I think that was the testimony. This is an alien reproduction vehicle, and just to be clear, this means that it is based on advanced anti-gravity and zero-point energy propulsion systems. They are being manufactured by a consortium of companies that include Lockheed Martin, Northrop, SAIC, and other corporations. But this is not a jet internal combustion system at all. It is actually kicked in by a type of electric power source, and it then accesses this ambient zero-point energy field that is responsible for all matter and energy existing, and by special configurations and what have you, it causes a cancellation of mass inertia and an anti-gravity effect. They do have superluminal capacity, in other words, faster than the speed of light capacity. I think Mr. McCandlish and other witnesses, as he's identified, could go into more of the technical physics of it.
Well, it turns out that this was in October that the magazine hit the newsstand. It was a November issue of Popular Science. It was called the Mach 5 Spy Plane. And a friend of mine from college, Brad Sorensen, had seen this cover illustration and opened up to read the story. He recognized my name and he called the art director. He passed along my phone number, and the next thing you know, I get a phone call, and this fellow calls up and said, "Hi Mark, it's Brad Sorensen, remember me?" So we got reacquainted, had lunch together, and it turned out that just a few weeks beyond that, a local Air Force base, Norton Air Force Base, was having a big air show. And there was a rumor that they were going to have an SR-71 Blackbird out there, which was still kind of a rare occurrence at air shows to see something like that. And so I invited Brad to come out to the air show, and he suggested that he might be bringing along a client that he was working with. He didn't say who it was at the time, but that he thought that there might be the possibility that we could network some jobs together. So we arranged to meet together, and at the last minute, I got a second call from Popular Science to do yet another illustration. It was a quick turnaround. They wanted it done over the weekend. It was a quick $3,000, so I couldn't turn that down. It was for their February of '89 edition, with the cover story being about the X-31, which was an experimental aircraft program. So did that illustration, and Brad went ahead and went to the air show, and when the weekend was over, I was kind of interested in his impression, and I called him up and I just said, how did you like the air show? And he just seemed completely different. When I talked to him on the phone, he sounded almost depressed. I mean, it was kind of a strange sort of reaction. And he said, well, I don't know. I think I saw something I wasn't supposed to see.
So, who is the person you know?
I'm here to talk to the man who's running the show. You will recognize him when you see him.
How's that possible? Everything that's at the air show is sent there and flown there with the intent of putting it on static display, especially for the public. So how could you possibly see something that wasn't intended to be seen? He says, I got in to see a display that was little more exclusive. Something that was set aside for some top military brass and some top politicians with clearances.
Sir, please get the secretary.
Yes, sir. Welcome. Come on in.
Great to see you, Mr. Secretary. My assistant, Brad Sorensen.
Good to meet you. Follow me.
The fellow I was with didn't realize at the time that certain, items were going to be on display, and as soon as he realized that here I was without a clearance to see this stuff, he basically said, don't say anything, don't talk to anybody, we'll get out of here as soon as we can.
There are a lot of things in here that I didn't expect that we're gonna have on display. Stuff you probably should not be seeing. So don't talk to anyone. Don't ask any questions. Just keep your mouth shut. Smile and nod, but don't say anything. Just enjoy the show. We're gonna get out of here as soon as we can.
Yes, sir.
So I asked him, I said, well, so what did you see that you think is so stunningly, classified that, you'd be in trouble? And he said, well, he says, there was an example of the first generation Aurora there, which was the aircraft that was the second generation aircraft that I did the conceptual artwork for. So he saw the real thing.
Gentlemen, this is the Lockheed Pulsar. It can be anywhere in the world in 30 minutes or less. It can deliver 121 nukes, 10 to 15 megatons each. We have a nickname for this bird, the Aurora. Now please follow me.
So of course I was real curious about what it looked like, and he gave me some details on that. And then he described a number of sort of odd-looking hovercraft and troop transporters and things that were basically just kind of jazzed up, advanced hover vehicles of one kind or another. After going through all of this, I said, well, even this doesn't sound all that extraordinary. I mean, is there something else? And he said, well, yeah. He says, after they had the main little dog and pony show, they pulled back the curtain and there were these 3 flying saucers hovering there. And I was just...
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you've enjoyed the first part of our exhibit. Now for the grand finale, we're going to proceed to the other side of this hangar. Curtain up and lights on, please. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present to you the Fluxliner.
The smallest one was about 24 feet in diameter at the bottom end of the craft. The medium-sized vehicle was about 60 feet in diameter, and the largest was somewhere between 125 and 130 feet in diameter. I couldn't believe my ears. I said, wait, did you say flying saucers? He said, yes. And I said, well, what do they look like? He says, well, they look like something from the 1950s, like a jello mold. Flat on the bottom, sloping sides, a little terrace around the middle, then a dome on the top, with all these little bubbles around the top, and a door that looked like something off of a submarine, with the little pins that go out into the frame of the door, the big wheel that you turn to tighten it, all this kind of stuff. And I said, well, what were they doing? Were they just sitting on the floor? He says, no, they were hovering. There wasn't no landing gear, nothing holding them up, cables, it was just they were hovering. There was a 3-star general that was part of the presentation. When they pulled back the curtains and these 3 flying saucers were revealed to the audience that brought them to this hangar, this general got up and he was describing these vehicles. He described them as alien reproduction vehicles, ARV for short. They also had a nickname for the aircraft. They called them Fluxliners. Now, flux is an electrical term for a high electrical charge. So, high electrical charge liner, a Fluxliner.
The Fluxliner is a prototype to what represents a revolution in aerospace technology. The Fluxliner is also known as the Alien Reproduction Vehicle, or ARV. This vehicle operates with a classified type of field propulsion based on the quantum flux, hence the name, the Fluxliner. This field can accelerate the Fluxliner at a rate far greater than any known aircraft or missile, yet meanwhile the pilot inside only feels a constant 1G environment, regardless of how fast or slow the field moves in three-dimensional space. It will preserve space-time as it was when the field was initialized. It can maintain internally a 1G environment even in outer space. It can travel in the atmosphere at many times the speed of sound without making a sonic boom. It can hover. It can go to space, and there it can travel at speeds in excess, and I'll say it again, in excess of the speed of light. This particular vehicle is over 20 years old, and yes, it has been to space many times, and as you can see in the other vehicles, this technology can be scaled up. This vehicle has been built with off-the-shelf components. There are casino-type cameras in the bubbles surrounding the crew compartment, F-4 fighter ejection seats, and a synthetic vision system from an Apache helicopter that gives the pilot a three-dimensional view of the outside world. All other details about this craft are classified on a need-to-know basis. Sir, are these vehicles part of a fleet? In other words, do we have a squadron of operational vehicles? Senator, these vehicles are all prototypes. This is a third-generation prototype, and they've been used to test different aspects of this technology, such as observability, survivability, interstellar travel, interplanetary travel, communication, surveillance, electronic warfare, and many others that I can't mention here. This vehicle has become an invaluable platform from which to conduct testing and research. What is important, and that's why you're here, is that with adequate funding, we are in an unprecedented position to lead the world unchallenged through access to air and space, and protect the planet from threats such as rogue alien species, comets, meteors, and many others. Any other questions? Very well, we'll allow you to go up the stairs one by one and take a look inside the cockpit. Please enjoy the show.
Brad, let's go. Follow me.
Yes, sir.
He's describing the stuff. He's describing the different features that he'd seen. And well, how do you know that? I mean, if you could just look at the outside of the vehicle, how do you know what the inner workings is? And he said it was remarkably simple. There wasn't that much to it. And I said, and you were able to figure out how it worked from that? He said, well, no, they had an easel next to it with a drawing, a cutaway drawing, that showed some of the internal components, how they were arranged, oriented to one another. And then they had a little a TV monitor with a tape player below it that was showing this continuous loop with this thing sitting or hovering over like a dry lake bed out in the desert somewhere. And
The ARV system, for all its claims of flashy, out-of-this-world propulsion capabilities, was indeed remarkably simple. It could be described as a large-scale, souped-up Tesla coil designed to negate gravity and inertia, with off-the-shelf navigation and life support systems bolted on, almost as an afterthought. You could think of it as the Model T of anti-gravity vehicles, an industrial dune buggy or crude hot rod that can get you to Mars in a few minutes. In this version, at least, first-class seating was still a ways off.
one of the things that this general had said during the presentation, one of the things that really stood out in Brad's mind was that he said that these vehicles were capable of light speed or better. The aircraft looked very old, like it had been around for decades. It had chips in the paint and runs, and you could see fingerprints and smudges, boot prints where somebody walked up the side of it, this kind of thing. And he said that the paint that was on the outside, it looked like they'd taken a bunch of powdered lead, mixed it into a resin, and then just brush painted it right on the side of the aircraft. It looked like it was slapped together in somebody's garage.
Gentlemen, let's make history.
So according to his account, on November 12, 1988, Mark's friend inadvertently gained access to a highly classified air show, where the featured hardware of the event was real flying saucers. They were really strange looking, but appeared functional and were named to suggest anti-gravity and reverse-engineered alien technology. An official presence stated they could travel faster than light. Despite their futuristic performance capabilities, these appeared to be stripped-down, road-worn, working prototypes which had seen practical operation for years. If this were the case, they were crude but tangible proof of concept for a staggering leap in aviation technology. They used extremely advanced electromagnetic or field propulsion, as opposed to solid or jet fuel, nuclear power, or any other commonly known conventional means. It also meant our government, and at least one major defense contractor, Lockheed Martin, had been developing and deploying functional systems along these lines for many years. To both McCandlish and Sorensen, who'd been working professionally for some time within what they thought were the highest levels of aeronautical design, this odd system was a sucker punch from the future.